Good morning, everyone at home. My name is Martin Mpokoza. Welcome to Youth Academy Interact. Today we have a special guest, Thabiso Mkwena, of which we'll be discussing the coronavirus. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
The coronavirus is a public health emergency and it is also an economic emergency. Now, how can we as the community members assist with self-isolation as the youth of South Africa?
First of all, we need to stop being ignorant. The government has laid out ways in which we can fight the coronavirus. And one of the main ways is self-isolation. You don't have to be arrogant in such a way that you want to force things and go out. You are risking not only yourself but the community as large. Therefore, we need to meet the government halfway by staying indoors. Avoid gatherings where we are more than 100. In fact, I think more than 100 is just a number that is too high. Avoid going out at all because you might meet people and one of them is infected. You get infected, then you take the virus back home. You infect more people.
Now, touching on that, that one of the measures that was proposed by the government of a minimum of 100 people per gathering. Now, how realistic is that?
It depends. Okay, according to me, it depends where and how that is going to be implemented. Firstly, if you check our areas, these are rural areas. It is very difficult to say people shouldn't gather in numbers. As where we have limited stores, like we only have one plaza here. If we need to get supplies, we all have to go to the plaza. And it can't be at a time that we are more than 100.
Yes.
So it depends on where and how is the situation of the people living there. I mean, like the economic status of those people. Some people cannot afford to stay at home because they have to work and get money. They have to sell snacks, like for instance, the ladies that sell snacks at the roads, they need to be outside so that they can feed the children. So it depends on the location of the place and how that place is run or governed.
Now, you are right. Coming from the rural sectors, like one of the challenges that we are facing, the water crisis and the utilization of the public transport, being the trains, the taxis, the buses. Now, some of the basic guidelines that was proposed by the Health Organization of South Africa was to wash our hands regularly and to avoid overcrowded places. Now, coming from the rural area whereby water is still a challenge and the utilization of public transport, it almost seems impossible to dodge the bullet.
It seems impossible to dodge the bullet because this problem adds a problem on top of more problems. You mentioned the issue of water. We've been having problems with water. So how can you wash your hands regularly when first there's no water that you can use to wash your hands? And most people do not have running taps at home. They have to go to a certain location to get water. And that place, there might be people who are infected and in that way the virus will spread. So the issue of water will be a challenge. The government should have fixed that issue before the coronavirus outbreak. It would have been much more simpler for us to wash our hands. Okay, it's not that difficult to wash your hands, but I'm saying water will run out eventually. Then we will have to go out get water from the certain locations. So in a way, it will help by washing your hands. As researchers or scientists say, it will help. But they need to fix the issue of water, like provide communities with water at their safe homes, because I have to go out and get water at the end of the day when my supply runs out. So in a way, I'm exposing myself to a possibility of catching the virus.
That is true. That is true. Now, schools have been closed down, yet our parents continue going to work. Now, the kids are treating this as holidays. Who monitors the kids while the parents are at work?
Yes, that's a very scary fact that you're mentioning right now, because most of the parents, they do not work in the government sector. They work in companies, and most of the companies are still arrogant to such an extent that they demand people to come to work. And most of these people, they use public transport. I think a bus carries more than 150 people at a time.
Yes.
Maybe 200 at maximum. I'm not sure about that, but that's a gathering of 100 people or more. That's a risk as well. And school children, the schools are closed. They think it's a holiday, just like, okay, it would be holidays by now since the term was scheduled to end on the 20th. But this time the situation is not normal because we are facing a crisis. Children need to stay indoors, but you'd find that the parents went to work, and when they went to work, no one is guarding the children or monitoring them if they are staying indoors or what.
Yeah.
And it adds on another issue of how the parents are not informed about the situation. I don't think many people, mostly black people in rural communities, are well informed about the situation. Hence, they do not see a problem of a child going to play outside with other children, and that is a risk.
Yes.
That's a risk that you are taking as a parent. Fine, it's a normal situation for your child to play outside because that's what usually happens on weekends or other school holidays. But the situation right now doesn't need that.
It does not allow us.
It does not allow us. We should always try to be indoors. We have technology right now. I don't know. We have technology. We have TVs, cell phones. The children can stay inside.
Yes.
Because what's the point of allowing your children to play outside and they might be exposed to the virus? Or what's the point of allowing the parents to go to work and they contact the virus and then bring it back home?
Yes.
It defeats the purpose. I think we need to find a balance there.
Now, we've seen people buying in bulk. Is it selfishness or self-preparedness?
It depends on how you're looking at it. Firstly, before the lockdown was announced, people thought people who are buying in bulk are being selfish. And if you check, not to be racist or to sound any racist or how, white people, they did their preparations earlier than us.
Yes.
Some might argue that, okay, most people earn their salaries month end. And if you check the date has not yet arrived. So most people were not in a position to buy bulk early.
Yes.
So then there are people who are selfish in terms of that. Okay, maybe you might say they are not selfish when you are concerned about your own safety.
That is true.
And by that time when people were buying in bulk, the virus was not at a peak or at its peak.
Yeah.
The number was still about 8 or 10 people
13,
infected. 13, it was below than 20, let's just say below than 20. And people were already buying in bulk. Those people, we cannot say they are selfish because they were trying to protect their own health by avoiding the crowd that will be there right now. If you go to any shop right now, many people, they have a deadline of the 21st, 26th. On Thursdays, 26th.
Somewhere 26th.
Yeah,
26th
it starts
of
on the
March.
26th. Yes, on the 26th. That is certainly a deadline, not for a community, but for the whole country.
That is true.
By the 26th, you should have bought your things in bulk so that you will need everything. You will have everything you'll need for the 21 days. Because it's going to be a long time and it's going to be a rough period. So, in my view, I think it's self-preparation rather than selfishness.
Let me ask you another controversial question. Now, there were people from South Africa that were repatriated from Wuhan. Now, some people were against that. Some considered that as those people belong to South Africa, they had the right to be here, to be repatriated. What is your take on that?
Firstly, we are a democratic state, and those people are born and raised in South Africa. It's just that they went overseas for their own reasons. So denying them access back, it's like you are infringing their human rights.
Yes.
How can you disallow them that they are not welcome in their own home? Okay, fine. There's a crisis at large at the moment. And there are structures put in place that we can detect if this person has been infected or not. If the person has been infected, then there are places where they are kept and monitored until they recover or up until something happens. Then, in my own opinion, I think it's not the right decision to deny them access back into the country, because if the person is infected, we have measures in place, like people that are taken to Limpopo to be treated and
For quarantine.
so that they can be in quarantine. Then why shouldn't they be brought back into the country? Because first of all, you might find that the person overseas was staying in a hotel. What's gonna cover the cost of the hotel? The person needs to come back home, and the fact that these people have families in the country, they need to be back with their families at this time. For instance, like for a mother, the mother went overseas. Now you're trying to say that the mother must not come back and be with her children because the mother traveled and she was tested and she's negative, but she's still not allowed in the country. That wouldn't sound fair. So in my own opinion, it is not, I cannot say politically correct, but in a human sense, it's not correct. It's
inhuman.
Because it's inhuman. Thank you. It's inhuman to deny someone access back to the country where clearly their papers state that the person belongs into this country and they should be here. Almost every country is in lockdown right now. So people are trying to get back to their respective countries. So if the time allowed them, like maybe 2 weeks back, the person before the lockdown, the person tried to gain access into the country, the person should have been allowed. Although there are people saying, the people that are coming from outside countries will infect us. No, we have measures at the airports or harbors where we'll test these people if they're infected or not. If they're infected, we put them in isolation, deal with the situation. If the person is not found by that time to be infected, then we'll keep on monitoring them as time goes by to see if the person was infected, just that it did not show at that particular time. So that's what I think. It's not a good thing to lock out someone from his or her own country.
That's a good point. Do you think the government is taking the threat very seriously, considering the fact that there's going to be a 21 days lockdown here in South Africa?
Yes, the government is taking this issue serious because the government has chosen to suspend most activities. There were a lot of things like religious activities were suspended.
Good Fridays.
Yes, soccer or sport activities were suspended. And music, a lot of things were suspended. If the government can take a stance and say we are suspending religious activities, those are very important things that you can't just suspend without a valid reason.
That is true.
And then what I like about what's happening in the country right now, even the religious leaders understand that no, we are facing a crisis. They are not being selfish and saying that the government is testing their faith. They actually agreed because they can see what's happening at the rest of the world. So the government is taking this serious by also implementing the lockdown. A lot of jobs have been shut down, just like the schools. The schools were closed early. And but basic services will continue operating because we cannot function without basic services. But most of the activities will be shut down, and I think that's a sign of taking it seriously.
Now, my last question: are you afraid?
Am I afraid?
Yeah.
I am not afraid, but I am shaken enough to stay indoors for the 21 days.
Yes. Okay. Any final words of motivation to our listeners at home?
This particular time, it's a time for everyone to be a hero, and not all heroes are in action movies. You can be a hero by staying at home. That's how you can save a life, because if one person can infect 10 people, then when those 10 people disperse, how many people will get infected? So we need to stay at home. My advice to everyone is take this warning seriously. Stay at home. Do not force issues. And there's a trend on social media saying people will go out just to see if there's no one outside. No, no, that is totally uncalled for. We should all stay indoors, respect the law, because this has been said by the president, and no one above him, and there's no one above him, and no one can argue with that. So we should stay indoors.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Sir.
thank you for having me.
There you have it, guys, from Tabiso Mkwena. Thank you.